Hello everyone, welcome to Intellipaat. This video is a part 1 of a 3-part series related to Salesforce. Salesforce is a cloud-based software company that provides businesses with tools that help them find more prospects, close more deals, and provide a higher level of service to their customers. Now let us take a look at the agenda for this part. Firstly, we'll start off with the introduction to Salesforce, followed by what exactly is a customer relationship management or a CRM software. Now, before we begin with the video, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for regular updates.
So let's say Salesforce, we are calling it as Salesforce falls under the class of products called CRM. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Let's say CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Okay. So earlier, the reason why the word CRM came into existence, that we need to first understand. Why are we calling these products as customer relationship management products? Okay. So to answer this, I have to go back in time to early 90s or the ending of the 80s and beginning of 90s. So at that time, I'm completely talking about the US scenario over there. Okay, I'm completely talking about the US scenario. I don't have any clue about the European or any other regions. I'm completely talking about the US scenario only. So around that time, the way, let's say for example, if I have an insurance, okay, I have if I've taken insurance for my car, if I've taken an insurance for myself, if I've taken an insurance for my motorbike, I've taken an insurance for my home. So there are four insurances. Each insurance comes with one unique ID. So the scenario is of late 80s and early 90s, guys. Now, the only way that I can remember everything is that I have the forms and I have to pull out the forms and then I have to see all the details in the forms. It's completely paper based. So something happens with the car and I need to claim the insurance. So for that, I call the 1-800 number. So when I call the 1-800 number, the person will first take my unique number. So which is the SSN. So the call center representative asks my SSN. Using the SSN, they will pull out the customer ID from their system. So they will identify the customer ID from the system. And once they identify the customer ID, they use that customer ID to pull out the insurance related inputs from a different system. Then that inputs will showcase the different kinds of insurances that I have, and the person will ask which insurance that I want. So I'll tell that I need to pick up I need to raise a claim for my car insurance. So the person will pick up that car insurance and then he will raise the claim in a different system. So to get my query answered and my claim raised, the call center representative has to move across 3 4 different applications. The call center agent has to move across 3 4 different applications. So for that particular reason, the amount of time it used to take per call is close to 10 minutes. So on an average, if you take it as 10 minutes per call, so in 1 hour, the call center representative used to take 6 calls on an average, I should say. So looking at this time consuming part of it, there is an executive in Oracle Corporation, and his name is Thomas Siebel. So he introduced, okay, the term CRM is there for a long time. There are a lot of people who have worked on CRM and other things, but the term customer relationship management software has been brought into life by Thomas Siebel. So he had a proposal for a customer relationship management software, but for some reason Larry Ellison negated that. So this guy was very much confident on his idea, so he had quit his position in Oracle, and he started off his own company called Siebel Software Systems Inc. Incorporated, and then he started development of this Siebel CRM. So Siebel Customer Relationship Management Software. So it is completely call center specific application. So the first CRM application that came to life is the call center application. The first CRM application that came to life is the CRM application. So, the call center application. So when they launched it, okay, so it has got features beyond imagination. So let's say, for example, if you are using Office 365 right now, okay, so if I type something, I don't need to explicitly save this. This gets automatically saved. And that feature was given in Siebel way back in 1992, 93 kind of a time frame. So you type in one line and then push the enter key, this line gets saved automatically. This is called implicit saving. This line gets saved automatically. And that time, if you have to copy, Control C, Control V's are pretty new. So Siebel was using the shortcuts. So Siebel has introduced a lot of features where the mouse movement of the call center representative is minimized. Number of button clicks are very minimal. And then the number of windows, the pop-up windows that got opened, and the number of systems that they have to move have been limited, where the Siebel is able to talk to all the systems, get the data and put it in its own database. So that's how Siebel has reduced the the switching of screens, the click of the buttons. As a result of it, the productivity is supposed to be increased. So the call that used to close in 10 minutes is now getting closed in 5 minutes, 4 minutes kind of a time frame. So that is almost like 50% productivity increase. So people were pretty happy with that particular application, and this application has been picked up by all the major industries. So if you take the major industries in entertainment world, you have Disney. Disney used to use Siebel, and then if you have Johnson and Johnson, they used to use Siebel. If you take Procter and Gamble, they used to use Siebel. If you take Coca Cola, they used to use Siebel. If you go in for uh, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they used to use Siebel. So like majority of the organizations have been started using Siebel. But the biggest problem with Siebel is it is very expensive to maintain, because it requires a lot of licenses. Because of this, all these fancy features that are there, the control S to save, control N for new, implicit savings, all these things, the load on the server is very high, and all this is available because of the those time the Microsoft has introduced a concept called ActiveX controls. So all these features were available to the people because of the ActiveX control. So when the Siebel application is being launched on the browser window, these ActiveX controls used to get downloaded, and then they are there in the browser. So for that, it required a specific browser thing. So when it was into browser, otherwise it is a desktop based application. So you had to install Siebel in all the machines. The installation is difficult. When there is a new version, they have to reinstall the Siebel in all the machines. So maintenance has become a very big issue, and it is expensive. Licenses are very expensive, and it is only supporting the call center related things. So they have their fair share of their own mistakes that they did. So the product cost, because there is no competitor, people, and then this is offering the features, people never bothered to, or even the people bothered, they don't have an opportunity, they don't have an option to go for another one. So that is where Siebel had minted a lot of money. Siebel had minted a lot of money, and they had jumped into this dot-com bandwagon around 1999 timeframe, and in 2000 they have released Siebel version on the web. So it's not exactly a web-based application at that time. So it used to have a server, and then you can connect to that server via the web. So using a specific URL, you can connect to the server, and you can do your application, you can do your work on the web-based application. So that is where they launched the Siebel on the web as a .com application. But again, that was to get into the .com thing. The application that was released was a little problematic. So the QA is not properly done, and the release has got a number of unexpected problems after the release. So a lot of companies were pretty unhappy about it. There were a lot of patches that got released. There were a lot of patches that got released, and eventually Siebel came out with a stable version called Siebel 7. So 7 was a very stable version, but again, whatever the damage that has to be done, that has already been done. But the reason why I'm giving this story over here is because this entire story is being very closely watched by another gentleman. And he's also an exec in Oracle, and his name is Mark Benioff. And he is not very, like, he's looking at, he don't want to jump into the bandwagon immediately, so he waited for a long time. So he was observing all the demerits or all the disadvantages that there are there in Siebel, and then he slowly looked at, and he started. He came out of Oracle, and he had started his own .com organization called SFDC. He used to call it as sales. They call it as, earlier it was known as Salesforce.com. Earlier it was known as Salesforce.com. It was it was the company which is completely a web-based application. So and it remained a web-based application, like a web portal where you log in with the URL, and the URL is salesforce.com. So that is the reason why, till a lot of time back, the company itself is SFDC, Salesforce.com. And recently, maybe a decade back, they have changed the name to Salesforce. So the organization itself earlier was called Salesforce.com. The organization name has been moved into Salesforce, and then SFDC became a product under Salesforce. So Salesforce people were not very interested in the beginning. So the reason why people are very skeptical about Salesforce is, what Salesforce is telling is, you don't need to worry about anything, including your data. We take your data, we save your data in our databases. But at that time, data is more precious than gold for the companies. No company is ready to share its data with someone whom they are not able to believe firmly. So at that particular point in time, there was a hardware revolution where the necessary hardware that is required to boost the internet speeds has come down drastically, and as a result, the internet speeds have tremendously increased. On top of that, the biggest thing that ever happened is the introduction of the HTTP protocol. So it was World Wide Web protocol that was being used earlier. Then came HTTP, and the best thing that ever happened is HTTPS. HTTPS is a secured protocol, but again, on top of it, even still, people never really bothered to work with Salesforce. People never really bothered to work with Salesforce. But then came in companies like VeriSign, and then there came in companies like I don't remember another company name. VeriSign is the one which I remember. So they came up with something known as 128-bit encryption. So when you're transferring the data, you buy the license, so the data gets encrypted and it goes to the endpoint, and then at that place it gets decrypted once again. So VeriSign is one, and then I think Norton or one more company is there. So they had provided this. After that, slowly people started believing Salesforce, and they started licensing, taking the licenses from Salesforce. And Salesforce had made a very, very clever step over here. Earlier, let's say, for example, if you have a 10-seater call center, okay, if you have a 10-seater call center that runs 8 hours a day, 8 hour shift into three shifts, and runs for 7 days a week. Okay, so that runs 24 by 7. That's what I can say. So it runs 24 by 7. So at any given shift, how many employees are working? If it's a 10-seater call center, at any given shift, 10 people will be working. So in one day, how many people will be working on this 10 machines? 30 employees will be working. So when you have 30 employees working in Siebel, you got to buy 30 licenses. Okay. Whereas Salesforce never said go buy 30 licenses. So Salesforce said, okay, you're using it for a call center. So we will not sell you per user license. Instead, I will sell you per seat license. So what happens is the license is attached to a system. So whether three people use that system or 30 people use that system, Salesforce doesn't bother about it. But Salesforce will take licenses. Salesforce will sell license per seat. So there are 10 seats, 10 licenses you have to buy. Who sits in that seat is not bothered, is not Salesforce botheration. Okay, so it's you who have to manage that. How the data is saved, all that is your problem. But Salesforce gives you 10 licenses for 10 machines. You got to use that login ID and password for all the people who are going to use that machine. That's how the companies have reduced a lot of license fee also based on the per seat license. And then Salesforce, okay, for Siebel, you need to, Siebel hadn't gone into initially, Siebel hadn't gone into acquiring the customers. It's more concentration is towards, initially, it's more concentration is towards call center specific applications, and they moved out of that, and Siebel started developing industry verticals. Siebel started developing for industry verticals like Siebel Life Sciences, Siebel Automotive, Siebel Sales. Siebel Sales came later. Like again, they are all verticals, so that were not even there in Salesforce. Salesforce Siebel was way beyond its thing, but again, the expensiveness of Siebel and the mistakes that were made in the initial stages have killed Siebel. But otherwise, Siebel was supposed to be ruling even till date, because what Siebel has developed itself in those early years, Salesforce couldn't develop that. And to get that Salesforce has acquired a company called Velocity to get its industry vertical. So telco, and then some other industries are there under Velocity. So Salesforce has acquired it, but self-inflicted wounds have killed Siebel. But then again, it's a disguise. It's a boon in disguise to Salesforce, and people started going in for Salesforce. And as a result of it, Salesforce, which was one of the CRMs that was there, became the only CRM, I should say. Okay, and leading the world as the number one CRM at this point in time. So at this point in time, if you look at the market share, Salesforce has got the largest market share, and I think it is very closely being followed by Microsoft Dynamics, and then rest of the applications follow the suite later.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Salesforce online training mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below.